I was working the late shift at St. Mary's Hospital when they wheeled in Mrs. Alvarez, 83, her body ravaged by multiple organ failure. Dr. Thompson, with his usual detached tone reserved for terminal cases, estimated she had maybe 6 hours left. Her family was summoned from across the city, but as I adjusted her IV, she clutched my wrist with surprising force for someone so near death. "I need to tell someone," she rasped, her voice hoarse yet insistent. "Please, you have to hear me out." In my 12 years as a nurse, I'd heard countless deathbed confessions in these sterile halls that had seen thousands of final breaths. Affairs, petty thefts, long-buried family secrets, none of it shocked me anymore. Elderly patients, staring into eternity, often felt compelled to unload the guilt they'd carried for decades. I pulled up the stiff plastic chair, a relic that had likely comforted countless grieving families, expecting something routine, maybe a hidden fling or an unresolved spat with a sibling. Something ordinary. "What's on your mind, Mrs. Alvarez?" I asked softly, smoothing the thin hospital blanket that never seemed warm enough, no matter how many we piled on. Her grip tightened, her frail nails pressing into my skin, leaving faint crescent marks. "My grandson Mateo," she began, her voice trembling. "The one who died in Iraq 3 years ago." I nodded, offering my practiced empathetic look. She'd spoken of Mateo before during her prior visits for heart issues, always with tears streaking her lined face. A Gold Star grandmother, she kept his photo by her bedside, a young man in crisp military uniform with gentle eyes and a warm grin. The hospital staff knew her story, how she'd lost her beloved grandson to a roadside bomb in Baghdad. We always handled her with extra care. "He didn't die over there," she said, her dark eyes piercing mine with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. My stomach lurched as if I'd stepped off a ledge. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "He never enlisted, never left California, never even set foot in a recruiting office." I made it all up. Every word, every detail, every tear I shed in front of others for 3 years. The confession hit me like a bucket of ice water, freezing my thoughts and making the room spin. I searched her weathered face for signs of confusion or medication-induced delirium, but her gaze was sharp, urgent, and painfully clear. This wasn't the fog of painkillers or a failing mind. She knew exactly what she was revealing. "Mrs. Alvarez, that's impossible," I said, my voice shaking. "You have his Bronze Star on display in your home. The folded flag from his funeral sits on your shelf like a sacred relic. I've seen the photos, the military honors, the 21-gun salute, the bugler playing taps. All fake," she cut in, her voice growing stronger despite her fading body. "Every single piece of it. The medal was $75 from an online scam artist in Arizona. The flag came from a surplus store on Main Street. The funeral was a carefully staged performance." My chest tightened, nausea rising like a tide. This woman had been showered with community support, meals from church groups, honors from the local VFW, flowers every Memorial Day. The news had featured her story each Veterans Day, a symbol of sacrifice. She wore a gold star pin to Mass every Sunday, accepting hugs and prayers from strangers. "Why? How could you do this?" I stammered, unable to process the enormity of her words. She closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks, carving paths through the wrinkles of her 83 years. "Because the truth was uglier than a hero's death. Because I was too weak to face it, too ashamed to admit my grandson had become a criminal." "What truth?" I whispered, dreading the answer but unable to stop myself. Nurses always need to know the whole story. Her breathing grew labored, the monitors beeping faster as her heart struggled. "Mateo was arrested at 19 for armed robbery. 3rd felony, 3 strikes law. Life without parole." I froze, my mind reeling. I couldn't face the judgment from neighbors who'd watched him grow up, from the church that prayed for him at his confirmation, from the family who thought he was destined for greatness. "So you told everyone he enlisted instead of going to prison?" She shook her head, the movement costing her dearly. "No, that wasn't enough. People would ask questions, want to send letters, visit him. I said he died a hero in combat. It was easier than admitting the truth." My head spun, reality tilting like a sinking ship. "Mrs. Alvarez, where is Mateo right now?" "San Quentin, cell block C9. He's been there for 3 years, 5 months, and 12 days. I count everyone like a prayer." The monitors screeched as her heart rate spiked. Her family's voices echoed in the hall, Luz's nervous laugh, her brother's low murmurs. They'd be here soon, expecting to say goodbye, unaware their world was about to shatter. "The funeral?" I asked, grasping for something solid in this storm of lies. Empty coffin, she said flatly. My friend Javier from my old card-playing days knew a guy at Serenity Mortuary who owed him a favor. We filled the casket with sandbags and old blankets to get the weight right. Military funerals for soldiers killed overseas are often closed casket. No one questioned it. She gripped my hand again, her frail fingers like steel. But that's not the worst of it. My blood ran cold. How could there be anything worse than faking her grandson's death and deceiving an entire community? What's worse? I asked, though every instinct screamed to stop digging. Her eyes locked onto mine, fierce and unyielding. Javier's been extorting me for 3 years, taking my pension, my savings, everything. He threatened to expose the lie if I didn't pay up. Mrs. Alvarez, I started, but she waved me off. And yesterday I learned why he was so eager to help me stage Mateo's death. My stomach twisted, sensing a deeper darkness. What reason? Her breathing faltered, each word a struggle. Javier owned the store Mateo robbed. He pressed charges, testified against him, pushed for the harshest sentence. This was his revenge. The room spun. I gripped the bed rail to steady myself. What? Javier knew that if Mateo went away for life, he could control me forever. The fake death, the funeral, the blackmail, it was all planned to torment me, to punish our family for Mateo's crime. The door opened. Luz, still in her nurse's scrubs from her own shift, entered with tear-streaked cheeks. Behind her came Carlos, her eldest brother, and Ana, who'd driven overnight from Tucson. "Mama," Luz whispered, rushing to her mother's side. Carlos lingered awkwardly, while Ana began murmuring prayers in Spanish. Mrs. Alvarez squeezed my hand one last time before turning to her children. "Mijos, I have something to tell you, something terrible I've kept hidden for 3 years." Luz's face paled, her nurse's instincts catching the gravity in her mother's tone. "Don't talk, Mama. Save your energy. The family's coming. Juan's on his way from Oakland. The cousins are flying in tomorrow." Mrs. Alvarez ignored her, her voice firm despite her fading strength. "Javier didn't just take my money. He took something far more precious." "What?" I asked, dreading the answer. "Every month for 3 years, Javier forced me to write letters to Mateo in prison, saying we disowned him, that we were ashamed of him, that we'd rather he was dead than a criminal." Luz gasped, her hand covering her mouth. "Mama, no, tell me you didn't send those letters." "Mateo thinks we abandoned him," Mrs. Alvarez said. "Javier intercepted every letter he sent us, blocked all his attempts to reach out, had the prison put him on a no-contact list." Carlos stepped forward, his face darkening. "What's going on? Who's Javier? Mateo's been dead for 3 years." Mrs. Alvarez turned to him, her voice heavy with effort. "Sit down, Mijo, all of you. I need to tell you something that will change everything you know about our family." Luz's hands shook. "Mama, you're scaring us," Ana said, clutching her rosary. "The priest is coming for last rites." "Your nephew Mateo isn't dead," Mrs. Alvarez said. "He's been in prison believing we hate him." The room fell silent. Luz's face drained of color, then flushed, then paled again. Carlos staggered back. Ana's prayers stopped, her mouth agape. "That's impossible," Luz whispered. "We buried him. I saw the flag-draped casket." "Empty," Mrs. Alvarez said. "Filled with sandbags and old clothes. Javier orchestrated it all, actors, fake uniforms, a staged military funeral." Luz paced to the window, her voice breaking. "This is insane. You're saying Mateo's alive. That we mourned a living person. That I wept at an empty grave every Sunday for 3 years. The monitors blared as Mrs. Alvarez's blood pressure spiked. She pressed on, urgency driving her. "There's more. There's a safe deposit box at Citibank. The keys taped under my sewing box at home, behind your father's old photo. It has everything: the fake death certificate, Javier's blackmail notes, the forged funeral records. I've been collecting proof for months." "Why didn't you tell us?" Luz asked, tears falling. "We're your children, we could have helped." "I was protecting you," Mrs. Alvarez said. "Javier threatened your families. Ana's husband's immigration status, Carlos's gambling debts. He said he'd destroy you all if I spoke." Luz sobbed harder. "We could have fought this together, we're family." "You're helping now by being here," Mrs. Alvarez said. "Javier will come tonight. He always visits during evening hours, posing as family, charming the staff with his smile." I stood, my legs unsteady. "I'm calling security." "No," she gasped. "Let him come. I have a final trap for him, one that will end this for good." Luz looked between us, overwhelmed. "Mama, slow down. Explain from the start." Mrs. Alvarez pulled a small digital recorder from under her pillow, the kind used by private investigators. "I've been recording him for weeks, every threat, every demand, every boast about what he did to Mateo." She pressed the device into my hand. When he comes tonight, he'll confess. He's proud of his scheme. He wants me to know how clever he is before I die. Footsteps echoed in the hall, heavy boots with metal tips clicking on the floor. Mrs. Alvarez's eyes widened. That's him. I'd know those boots anywhere. They've haunted me for 3 years. A man in his 40s appeared, holding cheap flowers and a sympathy card. Average build, kind face, graying hair, a man you'd trust with your keys. I'm so sorry about your mother, he said to Luz, his voice warm. I'm Javier Torres, an old friend from the community center. Luz wiped her tears. Thank you for coming, Mr. Torres. Carlos shook his hand. I'm Carlos, Elena's son. Javier approached the bed, his demeanor shifting as he met Mrs. Alvarez's alert gaze. A flicker of calculation crossed his face before the mask of concern returned. How are you, Elena? He asked, his tone laced with a subtle threat. She stared back, unyielding. Javier, tell them about Mateo. Tell them what you did. His smile wavered. You're confused, Elena. The meds are making you say wild things. Tell them how you framed my grandson, she said. How you've bled me dry while he suffers in prison, thinking we abandoned him. Luz's eyes darted between them. What's she talking about, Mr. Torres? Javier laughed, the sound brittle. She's delusional, it's common at the end. Mrs. Alvarez nodded to me. Show them the recorder. I held it up, my hands trembling. Javier's eyes widened, panic flashing. What's that? Carlos demanded. Javier lunged for it, but I stepped back. Security, I shouted. You foolish woman, Javier snarled, his mask gone, revealing raw malice. You think this changes anything? Mateo, still in prison, still thinks you despise him. Mrs. Alvarez smiled faintly and revealed a phone hidden under her blanket. I called him yesterday. Told him everything, how you manipulated us, how we never stopped loving him. Javier's face twisted. Impossible, I cut off your phone months ago. Not this one, she said. Luz gave it to me for emergencies. Luz gasped. That was for 911. This was my emergency, Mrs. Alvarez said. Mateo knows the truth now. Security arrived as Javier lunged for the phone. They restrained him as he screamed, You ruined everything. 3 years of planning. Tell them about the robbery, Mrs. Alvarez said calmly. Tell them why you wanted revenge. Javier's face crumpled. Your grandson destroyed my store, my life's work. I lost everything because of him. So you tortured our family, Luz said, realization dawning. He deserved it, Javier spat. You got sympathy, free meals, discounts while I rebuilt from nothing. The officers read him his rights and led him away. Mrs. Alvarez turned to her family. There's a safe deposit box with proof. Use it to free Mateo. She passed 4 hours later, holding Luz's hand as Mateo's voice came through the phone, saying, I love you, Abuela. Thank you for saving me. The investigation exposed Javier's history of vengeful schemes against other families. Mateo was released 6 months later when Javier's manipulations were uncovered, his conviction overturned. On the first anniversary of Mrs. Alvarez's death, her family gathered at her grave. Mateo, now a youth counselor and college student, placed flowers on her headstone inscribed, Elena Alvarez, beloved mother, grandmother, fighter for truth. Javier was sentenced to 15 years for extortion, fraud, and conspiracy. Mateo visits his grandmother's grave weekly, sharing his progress, knowing her truth set him free.